Okay, let's talk about gun rights. I mean, there's so much of this stuff coming up, and you better know where you stand. Now, what's really screwed up the United States of America is, like God, for the last 80 or 87 years, laws concerning firearms have become a matter of public policy with no regard to the constitutional elements involved. What's scary is most of the people aren't willing to challenge the federal firearm laws because laws have been rewritten in such an ever-increasing deceptive manner. Every law that once that were clear and original and enacted over 40 years ago was changed, and the law was rendered to be more vague, to be more prone to flexible interpretation by cooperative judges. You've got to know that we are dealing with corrupt judges in this system. Look at the Ninth Circuit Court. They don't practice the law, they practice politics. Now things started changing back after the Civil War. People started embracing Darwinism and stuff. So anyway, there was a really effective, deliberate effort by the president of Harvard University, Charles Eliot, to change things to introduce evolution into the teaching of law. So he hired Christopher Langdale as dean of the Harvard Law School from 1870 to 1895, and they changed it from using the Blackstone commentaries and stuff to a case law approach, studying the writing of judges. Over time, the judges gained up more power. They didn't study the Constitution anymore. They only studied what judges wrote about it, making the judge the law and not the Constitution. The judges became a law unto themselves. That's what you're up against. Okay, now, you'll hear Pelosi and those idiots in Congress say, well, we can use the Interstate Commerce Clause. No, you can't. Federalist Papers number 24, they spelled it out. It's only there to prohibit the states from imposing taxes and tolls on merchandise as it's transported through the state for the purpose of buying and selling. Well, what about the General Welfare Clause? No. The framers understood the general welfare to the enjoyment of peace and prosperity and the enjoyment of ordinary blessings of society and civil government, and it's only possible if a federal government has strictly limited powers. Necessary and Proper Act. Oh, we can use that. No, you can't. The clause permits the execution of powers already delegated to the Congress and to the enumerated and are enumerated in the Constitution. No additional substantial powers are granted by the clause. Okay, let's jump to the Ninth Amendment, people, for just a minute. What this says, it says, the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed or denied or disparage others retained by the people. This means Congress has no authority to add on to the Constitution in such a way it would take away rights previously guaranteed. They don't have that power. Something else they got to think about too. Look at Title 18, Section 241. These people who are supposed to be lawyers and stuff and constitutional, they cannot claim ignorance of the law. You can't deprive people of the law. You can't claim ignorance of the law. Whenever they violate your constitutional rights, they do so at their own peril. It says, upon conviction, you are subject to a $10,000 fine, 10 years in jail, or both, and if death results in prison. Nobody cares. You don't violate somebody's rights. Okay, let's get to something else here. I've been through this before with you guys. We're going to do it again. This is a preamble to the Bill of Rights, written in 1791. The Convention of a number of the states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of the powers that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. That means Congress is constitutionally barred from infringing upon your firearm rights in any way, shape, or form. You know, people, the Second Amendment to the Federal Constitution recognizes that the God-given right to keep and bear arms is to be free from any interference whatsoever from the federal government. Accordingly, the federal government is nowhere in the Constitution granted authority to abridge, restrict, or infringe in any fashion whatsoever guns or ammunition. All the restrictive laws made by Congress, all regulations made by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are unconstitutional as being outside the scope of powers granted to Congress and to the executive branch by our Constitution. Restrictions of arms and ammunition is not one of the enumerated powers granted to Congress or to the executive branch. Now that came from okay. Well, we're not done. Ignore that telephone because we're not going there. We're going here. Every part of the Constitution is important. If you let the government ignore parts of it, soon they will ignore all of it. And that's what's been going on. Got to put them people in their place. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be an agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Where rights are secured by the Constitution, there can be no rulemaking or legislation that would arbitrate them in any way. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, imposes no duties. No one is bound to obey any unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. You can't have these judges and people in Congress ignoring provisions that are in the Constitution. Got that? They can't ignore that. They are bound by law not to turn away from what the provisions are in the Constitution. But they do so at their own peril. Believe me. Okay, people, that's about all I can get through, maybe into your heads. But do not believe that they have the power or the authority. That's all crap and hearsay, and that's from the people back in FDR's day, 1934. So for the last 87 years, they've been ruling under the color of law. There's no basis for it. There's no power to do it, and yet they did it, and they got you scared, and that's what they want. When you're scared, you don't fight back until you're at the point where we are now, where you have to fight back. You better learn the law, read your Constitution. The Constitution was written so even a 10-year-old kid could read it and understand what it means. Thanks for watching.